I generally don't know how to start this video. I really don't. Because you'd think that a government who is the elective representative of the population should at least do something to help people, especially during a national crisis and a pandemic. I'm at a loss for words. I really, really am. And this is the second time I've tried to start this video because I find the intro just so hard to do. But I just can't believe it. I generally just can't. But you've had 322 Tories vote to make children go hungry and to starve. That is the result of their vote. There's no two ways and clear out you can cut it. And the Tories can, and we'll get into some of the most baffling reasons they have given for voting for this, but it is just absolutely nonsensical. But then this is what happens when you vote for a party that has continuously doubled down on austerity. You know, it's shocking that, because we know this from other countries that have done this, that when you invest in deprived areas and areas where people are deprived and are poor, what happens? They no longer become deprived areas. The people who were poor now have a life and a good job because we invested in those areas. It's shocking, I know. Who knew? But anyway, we'll get into the article. This comes from the HuffPost, and it is the 5 most baffling reasons Tories have given for voting against free school meals. So on Wednesday evening, 322 Tory MPs voted against a motion to extend free school meals for children, as millions of families face financial hardship through the COVID-19 crisis. Among the MPs voting against the motion, which has been fiercely campaigned for by footballer Marcus Rashford, were the Children's Minister Vicky Young and Joe Giddens, a trustee of Feeding Britain. So the government has come even under more fierce criticism for its approach. Even Nigel Farage came out against the vote, tweeting, "If the government can subsidise Eat Out to help out, not being seen to give poor kids lunch in the school holidays, looks mean and is just wrong." You see, what planet are we on where Nigel Farage tweets out something like that, and I am in 100% agreement of his statement? So here are just the 5 ways Tories have justified theirs and theirs party votes. Some of the glaring holes in their defences. So first one is that the government is focusing on pumping money into the welfare system. During his appearance on Sky News on Thursday morning, Minister for Crime and Policing Kit Malthouse said that he voted against the motion to extend free school meals because, quote, "the best way to help those on low incomes was to pump money into the welfare system." The universal credit system, which was designed and rolled out nationwide under Conservative rule to replace multiple separate benefits, has repeatedly been cited as a key factor for pulling families into poverty. According to the UK's biggest food poverty charity, the Trussell Trust, a huge surge in demand for food banks use can be explicitly linked to the introduction of universal credit. With a 5-week wait for the first payment, many households have been plunged into rent arrears and face mounting bill payments. Now, And these weren't new. These flaws were already known. It's just the Tories decided to roll them out because they just don't care about the poor and the working class in this country. Research published by the Trussell Trust in September of 2019 revealed that the longer universal credit exists in an area, the higher demand for food bank use. In areas where universal credit has been rolled out at least a year, food banks in the Trussell Trust network saw a 30% increase in demand. The areas with the renovated welfare system in place at least 18 months, this jumped to 40%. This again increased to 48% for food banks in areas with universal credit for at least 2 years. During the interview, Matt House reinforced the government initiative announced by Chancellor Rishi Sunak, in which universal credit claimants were given a £20 a week uplift to help them through the pandemic, amounting to little more than £1,000 a year. But analysis for the support package carried out by the Resolute Foundation has revealed that there are no plans to extend the uplift beyond April of 2021, meaning that the UK's poorest households will suffer an income loss of over £1,000 the following year. The next one. The UK is, quote, the most generous nation in Europe, and the motion was designed to embarrass the government. Again, appearing on Sky News, Jeremy Hunt explaining alongside similar lines to Kit Malthouse that the government had already provided significant financial support throughout the COVID-19 crisis, and that the UK had been the most generous country anywhere in Europe, possibly the world. But this isn't true. In response to Boris Johnson's recent claim that there is no country in Europe that is equally the UK's financial response to COVID-19, the National reported that both wage and business support was much better in many European nations. And looking globally, when looking at extra spending as a percentage of GDP, Britain falls well behind Australia, Japan, Canada, New Zealand, and the US. But there you go. In response to a question for Kate Burley about why Tory whips had reportedly asked MPs to brief against Rushford, Hunt said that the Labour motion to extend free school meals was designed to embarrass the government, putting aside the genuine, evident concerns that more children are going hungry amid the pandemic. This was revealed on the 12th of October that almost 1 million pupils had recently signed up to the scheme for the first time on the top of the 1.4 million who are already claiming it. The numbers are just right there. And it's just unbelievable, but there you go. Next one. I do not believe in, quote, nationalising children. During the debate on the motion, Brendan Clark-Smith touted a need to return to parents taking responsibility for their own families, which he led by announcing that he does, quote, not believe in nationalising children, apparently regardless of the fact, as a House of Commons briefing paper points out, that the private sector has owned and run the majority of UK industries and utilities in the UK since the late 1980s. But never mind the global pandemic, which has decimated the finances of thousands of families. Clark-Smith was very clear, asking, where is the slick PR campaign asking absent parents to take some responsibility for their children? He continued, instead, we need to get back to the idea of taking responsibility. And this means less celebrity virtue signalling on Twitter by proxy and more action to tackle the real causes of child poverty. I agree there, my friend, but I'll tell you what, the motion you just voted against, tackles child poverty. And you know what? There's lots of other schemes that you could do and introduce. Like I say, the Tories have a pretty large majority that you could do to tackle child poverty, but you ain't gonna do them. And this may come as a surprise, but it turns out this line of argument really didn't go down well. So, this is the other one. Parents had been reportedly using the £15 a week voucher on alcohol, tobacco, or unhealthy food. Redcar MP Jacob Young said he voted down the motion because he'd been contacted by schools, supermarkets, and concerned parents who have witnessed people using the £15 a week voucher on alcohol, tobacco, or unhealthy food. Teesside Live, which reported the reason all three Tory MPs in the area voted down the motion, reported comments from Young in which he suggested cooked meals or food parcels would be more appropriate, but questioned who they would be prepared by, or who would they be paid for. Apart from the anecdotal stories, including one report by a single Asda worker in Hull, whose comments were picked up widely by national titles in May, there has been no substantial evidence that parents have been spending food money on age-restricted items. And it's not for the first time that the Tories have brought up these concerns. During the debate in June, MP Ben Bradley said, "We often find that those children, the ones that the schools normally look out for, are in a position where their parents are not necessarily going to use those vouchers in the right way, and the current circumstances have seen no safeguards against that." Education Secretary Gavin Williamson replied, "I can assure that my honourable friend that the measures are in place to ensure that the vouchers are not used for things such as alcohol, cigarettes or gambling." Bradley later told the Mansfield Chad that he was pleased the government was working with supermarkets to prevent parents from spending vouchers on anything but food for their families. And there have been no widely publicised stories of parents misusing vouchers since May, with the entire summing passing without further articles being published and concerns not having been widely raised about the schemes. And what do we have evidence for, however, is the fact that since the start of the pandemic, hundreds of thousands more children have signed up for free school meals, which many more households are worrying about affording food. That just blows my mind, but this is typical Tory propaganda of just selfishness. But there you go. Next one. Labour Deputy Leader Angela Rayner shouldn't have described a Tory MP as, quote, scum. Despite no longer being an MP and therefore not voting on the bill, one former minister also weighed in on the vote with questionable logic. During an appearance on BBC Question Time, the former Culture Secretary, Nicky Morgan, claimed the Labour Party might have found they got more supporters if the Deputy Leader hadn't called one of the Conservative MPs scum. During the Wednesday debate over the motion, Angela Rayner called Tory MPs Chris Clarkson scum, for which she has since apologised. As far as I'm concerned, she just shouldn't apologise. She was bang on the money there. She was quickly shut down by the host Fiona Bruce, who said, "I'm not really sure anyone's defending that, but it's not exactly the point, is it?" Despite the interjection, Morgan reiterated her comment, describing Rayner's words as unquestionably and unparliamentary. Morgan also tried to blame the Tory dismissal of the motion on the way in which it had been brought before Parliament via a Labour Opposition Day motion. She said if the Labour Party had really wanted, and I think Marcus Rutherford complained about it becoming politicised, if the Labour Party had really wanted support, they wouldn't have made it what's called an Opposition Day debate. They would have found other ways to build a coalition in Parliament. You weren't doing anything about it, so the Labour had to. But there you go. Labour MP Bridget Phillipson refuted the comment, asking, "So kids are going hungry this Christmas because you don't like the parliamentary process?" Snap. Yeah, just absolutely crazy and insane. But there you go. Holy moly! Holy moly! I have no words except all those comments, just beyond belief, beyond ridiculousness. You know, we are currently being led by a party, and what's worrying is what's going to happen. I've always said this from January, even before the pandemic. I worry about what's going to happen from January next year with the Tories fully large and in charge and being able to do so much more worse things. Just unbelievable. But that's the Tory party. The nasty party has reaffirmed itself once again, and just can't believe it. But there you go.